Would you look at that? It seems the vessel has finally run into what was supposed to possess it. What's up, guys? I'm Hunter, and here to do a breakdown and review for chapter 162 of Four Knights of the which is known as... I actually forget. I actually literally just did the live reaction, and I already forget. But with that being the case, this chapter, it is thick. It is thick. And thick as in page count. Like, this is a 22-page chapter, color page included, and also thick in terms of, like, actual content and stuff we got. And thick in terms of, like, action, too. Like, this chapter has a lot. It has a lot. And, of course, you know when a chapter has a lot, we gotta yap a lot. So let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Heading me. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? The guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Nakaba. We have to sit down, bro. There's no way you look at this. Here's the thing. I'm going to preface this as I always preface everything ever art-related, and especially coloring-related. Because notably, I literally do, in this drawer right here, and this isn't even it, I have a bunch of, like, coloring materials. I have markers, I have colored pencils, I have all types. The only, like, high-quality coloring material I don't have is, like, the Copic markers, because, like, those are way too much and I don't color enough for me to actually use them. I don't even do as much traditional art as I used to do, but even then I typically just use inking pens that do everything in black and white because I'm a manga man. So take what I'm about to say with the heaviest bag of salt. Not even a grain, not even 2 grains, not even 4 grains, not even 5, not even 6, not even 7, not even 27. A whole bag of salt. And I may not know anything. And I'll really admit, I know nothing of color theory. I have no idea about that. I don't get it. I don't get it. I've never looked into it. I've never been trained for it. None of that. But let me tell you, this is ugly. And here's the thing, right? Percy's hair color, fine. I can compromise on that. I swear it changes every single color page, but fine. We can compromise on the hair. The hair has to be green because it's literally a part of his design. The Hope Magic being greenish too, I kind of don't like it. I don't like the hair being this, like, pukish green and the Hope Magic being pukish green. I kind of preferred when the Hope Magic was, like, golden. I very specifically think of the... What's his name? It was the weather wielding guy. You go all the way back to, like, chapter, I think, like, 16, or no, it's pre-16 because that's when Anne gets introduced. I think it was, like, chapter 10 or something where we saw the guy who could manipulate weather and stuff like that, and we had that color page where the Hope Magic was gold. I preferred that color. So the Hope Magic was kind of ugly. The hair is also kind of ugly because it's that pukish green. The eyes, perfect. I like purple eyes. It works out. The purple works. Wonderful. The facial design, wonderful. Even the design of the fit is fine. Once again, I love the Teen Gohan inspirations with the long sleeves. It's clean. It's buttery. It's smooth. It's all that. Why is it green? And, like, deep, rich forest green, too. At least the fit isn't the puke green. If it was the exact same color as his hair, I think I would actually puke green everywhere. But I don't get why it's green. Why? Why are all the Percy's fits so whack? Specifically because of their coloration. Notably, a lot of Percy's fits had been kind of funky looking. Like, his original onesie, not my thing. His secondary onesie, not my thing. His redesign for heading out into the great wide world, not really my thing. So, like, don't get me wrong, I've never really been the biggest fan of Percy's fits. They aren't, like, top of the line. But the reason it confuses me so much is because I cannot think of a single bad Meliodas fit. And some of them were green. Like, I think one of my favorite fits from Meliodas is specifically his fit at the start of season 2, where he has the green pants and then the white top. But that fit is fire. The King Meliodas fit, fire. The base Meliodas fit, fire. The Assault Mel fit, fire. Like, every other main character fit is usually straight gas. So for Nakaba to have been missing for 162 chapters, dog, what is happening? Like, and here's the thing, everyone else's fit is fine or good. Lance still is one of the most fire fits in the series. Hasn't changed yet, but of course, who knows? When we see post-time series Lance, it'll probably change. But still, Lance, fire fit. Nasian's fire fit. I called him the Drip Lord forever, until I found out he wasn't a Drip Lord. The Drip Master forever, for a reason. The fit was fire. Donnie's fits were... Okay, his fit was rough. That fit in between, like, post-Leonis arc and then pre-time skip arc, that was garbage. But even his new fit, even if it's just a straight rip-off of House's old fit, House's fit was fire. Anne's fit, fine. Literally every single one of Anne's fit has been fine. I found one of them a bit weird, but still, they were all fine. And Nasian's, while the main thing people got on Nasian's case for post-time skip is the hair length, not necessarily the fit. Though admittedly Nasian's fit like, once again, in that same period of post-Leonis arc, pre-time skip, was a little bit wacky. But still, Nakaba usually has a really good fit track record. Bond's fit is iconic. King's fit is iconic. Nakaba is a fit master. I would wear half the stuff Nakaba designs just because of how clean the fits be. Even Kusak's fit was fire. Chandler's fit was fire. Those two randomized characters. But for some reason, he's just consistently swinging a bat and missing on Percy. And the reason it hurts so much is because I actually do like the design of Percy's fit in black and white. Like, I do like I mentioned, the Teen Gohan inspirations. The bows are a little bit weird, but I like it. I'll take it. I was working with it. I was leaning with it. I was rocking with it. But the color, it just doesn't work. It does not work at all. And I know you're looking at me like, Pencil, isn't your hair black and the shirt you try to wear in videos mostly consistently black or dark shirts or anything like that? And yes, but kind of. My hair is actually brown. It's just like, yeah, it needs a whole lot of light on it. And my hair is actually brown. It just looks black for reasons. But still, this, I can get away with this. This is fine. And plus, I'm not a manga character. Nakaba, you gotta work on these fits. And even like the colors of the rest of the gang's fits are fine too. I actually like the white and blue on Nasian's. That works very, very well. Interesting how Nasian's fit matches Anne's hair. I do find that a little bit funny. Donnie, well, his hair has always been funny looking to me. The fit itself is fine. Once again, it's just old Hauser fit. The black works on Anne. Everything else works. Even the fits for these other two characters right here, the other two knights. Tristan looks fine, though admittedly, I do wonder if this is a permanent Tristan design. Like, this is always going to look post-time skip after he's restored from the Tantra state. I don't know, there's only a portion of the fit, but the coloration seems fine. And while Gawain's fit definitely is just a straight rip-off / fusion of Merlin's old fit, along with Escanor's, I'd say EOS fit, but his EOS fit was literally just the pants. But still, the EOS fit with like the puffy collar, and even then, this is actually just straight Merlin's fit. Escanor's fit actually ended up taking inspiration from Merlin's fit for the final fit. So this really is just Merlin with the Escanor belt buckle and actual pants. But still, the fit works, and it's colored just fine because it is a reference fit. But overall, I don't know, Nakaba. You've been swinging and swinging and swinging. It's bad that the moment I see the fit colored, I'm like, okay, you can replace it again. You can change it. I just really don't lean with it wrong with it. But the blade itself, this seemingly sacred treasure, considering what goes on in the chapter, I do like this design. It's not exactly what I personally wanted. If you remember way back in time, I made a video talking about what the whole crew sacred treasure could be like. And I low-key wanted Percy to essentially just have like, I still don't know, I should look that up. If you'll remember, Sun Wukong's staff from Journey to the West very specifically could extend and contract at will. But ultimately, it was a stick. A very fancy stick, but a stick. And if you know God of High School, there's the character Mori Jin, our main character, who is also a variation of Sun Wukong, who has a stick. It really is just a simple stick. It's just a rock bone, though there's a whole bunch of lore behind it. But still, it's a stick that expands and contracts whenever he orders it or commands it to. And the power pole from Dragon Ball, another famous example. I was kind of hoping for that with Percy, considering his hope magic is so free and flexible, and he can do literally whatever he wants with it. And while this is not a stick, and that's fine, because I do like the better design, it has the same properties of the stick. I could see Percy getting crazy with the infinite amounts of ways he could work with this, and this is actually designed very, very well. I love the whole circle blade aesthetic, kind of like a pseudo chainsaw look it has going on, and the different gold rimming on it. That's beautiful. That's fantastic. The sword is fire. This sword, despite us not even seeing it in this chapter outside this one page, already looks better than all Percy's fits combined. Oh yeah. But let's stop talking about fists. Let's stop talking about swords. Actually, one last thing about swords. Dubs, make her another. Do not let this be her sacred treasure. I swear, she can dual wield sacred treasures for all I care, but do not let this be her sacred treasure. But that aside, let's actually hop into the chapter itself, Those Who Yearn. So, we open up, and we do get to see we are at the tower. The big, old, beefy, tall, girthy, juicy, scrumptious tower of Annwn. Apparently, at the 9,200 feet tall and 3,100 feet wide, this giant cane-shaped crystal structure is the site of the festival, a mirage-like tower only visible during the event. So, what this does imply is that Belltrep, while being the master of this realm, is likely not there for a lot of the time, and that will explain some things later. Very important things later. Considering this tower only appears when Belltrep wills it and is holding the tournament, it's very likely he is the jailkeeper of Annwn, but he's not the jailkeeper of Annwn. He's not like the warden in the sense that he's constantly watching over the prisoners and making sure none of them do anything. Because one, it's a separate dimensional realm. How are they meant to escape? How are they meant to move? How are they supposed to really get out of it? And two, it explains why he never noticed a certain someone being there. Especially considering now the way this chapter is written, the vagueness of how long a certain someone has been here is definitely called into question. But this is the massive tower, and we get to see that Percy is just simply excited. He's like, wow, that sounds so cool. My toes. why are they curling? And we see Gawain goes, nothing did ever really make you nervous, did it? And that is true. Percy's kind of always been witless and reckless. Though once again, a lot of current Percy, because of how much we've seen of current Percy, I'm not sure how much of it is genuine, you know? Like, I'm not sure how much of this is the new Percy playing up an act versus this is actual genuine Percy personality, which I do like. Don't get me wrong. I like the fact that it's so mysterious, so ominous that, ooh, is this really Percy? Is this not Percy? Is this Percy's mentality? Is it not Percy's mentality? I like it, but it has me scared. But a good kind of scared. So I like it. But with it being the case, we see that apparently there's a real big crowd around here. They are in the middle of Annwn, and Annwn's size as a realm is once again pretty vague. Unlike the other realm, where we can assume that the big gigantic flying ship that Gawain once had, I assume that realm is the one with all the stars in it. We haven't seen that yet for Annwn, but presumably it's a large enough realm that a whole bunch of people come together, but not all of them being warriors, just spectators as well. So just people in Annwn have come to visit. Now, Annwn and its habitability as a realm is also definitely, to say the very least, coming into question just a teeny tiny bit. But the thing that I'm interested in is how many people actually don't want to leave. How many people already have this as their paradise? How many people already view this as their perfect form of Camelot? Because at least the way Annwn was originally described, actually, I know I'm pronouncing Annwn wrong, because I remember Gawain sounding it out earlier, but I'm not going to go back and look at that. But the thing I remember about Annwn is that it was supposed to be like a prison and essentially a bit of conversion therapy, where ultimately you will love Camelot, and then once you do, you may be allowed to leave. But at least from this understanding of it, it can still be a prison, but it's the best kind of prison. I forget where the quote is from, but I believe the quote goes something along the lines of, the best way to make sure a prisoner stays locked up is to let them think they're not locked up in the first place. That may be Annwn, where ultimately it is free reign. It kind of reminds me of, the only reason this comes to mind is because I was literally just watching Kuro's Ben 10 breakdown of it. But in Karsakon, the way Tetrax describes it in that movie, it's a lawless place. There's food, there's water, there's habitability, but there are no rules, there are no guards or anything like that. That's what Annwn reminds me of. Ultimately, it's a place where a whole bunch of vagrants and people who do not believe in Camelot go together, and some people may just be happy there, just like some people were, seemingly enough, happy on Karsakon. Happy may be hard, because it's actually like a literal bad prison, but still, there was a guard there, a mechamorph guard, and once again, their sentience is strange. But with it being the case, we see that while there are a lot of people, a lot of them are onlookers, and we're not really going to get to see this many diverse character designs in action because, we got to have some sort of semblance of a plot. And we see that Donnie's looking around like, wow, we got some, let's say, interesting characters roam around these parts. They all got real slimy looking eyes. And Percy, once again, too wrapped up in the idea of this much life being around. So much power. So many of his people sitting there. Easy to trade. But ultimately, Percy says, shiny? And Donnie says, no, you idiot, I said slimy, which is a funny little joke. Once again, it's the simple little ones that get me the most, and I like this Percy. I don't know if I can trust you, Percy. You've taken a hole and put it into my heart, bro. I'm scared of you. But with it being the case, we see that Anne says, okay, now that we're here and all, what's up with our promised weapons? Naturally, they all are wondering. And I'll admit, I do find it strange that Anne apparently just randomly lost her rapier. Like, I don't... Oh, wait. No, I don't see it on her. I forget. Did something happen to it? I should have double-checked that before I started recording the actual review. Did something happen to her old sword? Because I don't think we see it at all this chapter. We don't even see her fight this chapter, despite how much I was glazing this chapter for being action-packed. And we see that Gawain does a spell. And you think I'm going to try to read that spell? No, I don't want to accidentally summon anything. But she uses the summoning spell to summon a gigantic treasure chest. And while everyone's impressed, she says, you'll find them all inside the box. Dubby's going to send them through as soon as he completes them. So, essentially, our whole cast and crew is going to be fighting weaponless. Now, I'd say for 2/3 of our casting crew, well, not 2/3, I'd say for 3 out of 5 of our casting crew, it doesn't really matter. Donnie has his telekinesis, which we'll see shown off later. Percy obviously has his countless abilities as a life spirit, and Gawain has access to her magic. But unless Nasians has not, I was about to say just henbaiting Belladonna, but unless he has, or they have their twin knives, I'm not exactly sure how they're supposed to fight, and considering Ann's drawn without a rapier this entire chapter, I'm not sure how she's supposed to fight either, so this is going to be interesting. But ultimately, the gang is a little bit unhappy, a little bit confused on what the heck, what's the point of us even coming here, if, and only if, we don't have weapons, how are we supposed to fight? And we see that Gawain says, look, he's real meticulous, okay? If you got a complaint, talk to Dubby, not me. So ultimately, they are kind of stuck out of luck on the weapons front. And I'll admit, that's a nice little soft nerve. And establishing they're going to come through that treasure chest eventually, regardless, does seem like an interesting point. Obviously, I assume... Do I, though? I'm about to say, maybe it'll end up being something similar to Meliodas versus Dale, the demon, where some way or another, by the end of the tournament, where someone's really struggling without a weapon, presumably Percy considering he's our main, someone's going to reach into the box and throw him the weapon. So that's interesting. I wonder, because Gawain says Dubby's going to send them through, versus send them all at a time. Well, no, it says as he completes them. So I'm assuming we're going to get everyone's weapons one by one, which is going to be interesting to see. I wonder how they're going to appear in their hands, how Gawain's going to throw it to them. That'll be interesting. But with it being the case, we see Nasians be just a teeny tiny bit concerned. And Percy asks, hey, something wrong on you? You Gucci geeking, bro? And notably, we don't get an answer to that. If I had to presume, it's probably because Nasians doesn't know how his procedure is going to go, considering he actually does have a piece of a sacred treasure that is presumably not made by Dabuzu. The Spirit Spears, at least to me, seem entirely autonomously spawned from... Actually, let me... No, I don't think I can find it. But I'm about to say, I wonder if I could look up, maybe Dabuzu did create the Spirit Spears, but I don't think so, or Dubs, or Dubby. But that being the case, I don't think he's had anything. And I think Nasian's a little bit worried, considering the last reason he was able to control the Great Spirit Spear was because of his connection to the Great Fairy Tree as its direct line descendant, its grandchild, versus, well, you know. But with it being the case, we do get to see that ultimately they don't have much of a choice, as they're going to have the box regardless. And with that being the case, we do get to see something interesting. Wouldn't it be trouble if Belltrep and his Chaos Knights discovered our identities? Hey, ain't seen those kids before. My glorious King Gallon, I miss you, bro. I miss you so much. I miss you, Gallon. Please come back. He's never gonna come back. But we do get to see that they say, hey, check out that boy's fancy green hair. And ultimately, Donnie realizes, yeah, good point. If you think about it, Percival and his gang are all wanted by Camelot. And then Anne doubles down and reminds Donnie, right, and that applies just as much to the three of us. So yeah, the issue with running directly into the heart of enemy territory is that you run directly into the heart of enemy territory. And thusly, you're likely nowhere near safe. But luckily enough, we do have Deus Ex Machina, Deus Ex Gawain, Deus Ex Merlin, where she has a fix. I'm sorry, I still can't mute my mic. But with it being the case, we see that Gawain goes on to show them the truth. Or actually, no. One little moment I do like. I like how Nasians does tease them a bit. He's like, or they're like, well, I've been in the fairy realm the past 2 years. But you've, let's say, kicked up a lot of dust, I surmise. And we see Anne say, hey, you don't have to dance around it. So it is funny, right? That Nasians is teasing his friends, or teasing their friends here and be like, I know what you did. Even if I don't, I know what you did. But Gawain, once again, comes out with the clutch and says, I saw that coming. So, check out what I got. She spawns a whole bunch of rings and says, these are special magical anti-aware rings, infused with a mixture of mentalist and deceiver magic. Teehee. And Nasians actually asks, anti-aware magic? What does that even mean? And we see that ultimately Gawain explains, my brain is thinking, like, when did she make these? Or did she always have... But essentially, sorry, my brain immediately got sidetracked. I was about to say, how did you make... But she says, think of it as casting a mental fog on those hostile to us. Oh, so these will keep them from realizing we're the Knights of Prophecy and their friends? Well, heck, I could sneak up on Belltrep and off him in his sleep. So, essentially, they have a little mini genjutsu going around them at all times. Think of it similar, but different enough to what Gother did all the way back in the Demon Village with his appearance specifically. He was not able to be recognized as Gother, specifically because of the stone pillar that was being held up. Well, that was the barrier. Gowther himself somehow remote activated an illusion of that scale, that size, and that quality, which is still a very good feat for Gowther, but an even more interesting feat for Gawain, who I think this is their first time showing off any sort of mentalist or deceiver magic. So once again, the question of who trained her, if it is really just what the grandparents, I don't know. It's interesting. How did she make these? I have no clue. But with it being the case, she explains, stop right there. These rings don't mean you can do anything reckless that you can think of. They provide a camouflage against outside hostility. If you're out to slaughter someone, they can't cloak that. So ultimately, I do, and I am glad and I appreciate the fact that Gawain immediately corrects this, because this is the immediate question that would be in everybody's head. I'll give Donnie credit. It would make absolute sense to just immediately turn and go absolutely buku bonkers on Belltrep if they had the chance while their presences were hidden, but ultimately the magic isn't that good. And with that being the case, we do get to see that these rings go immediately into work as a certain someone comes on the line. Well met, my little dung beetles crawling around Annwn. Huh? That voice, it can only be Belltrep. What did he just call us? That is hilarious to me, because he did just call them dung beetles. And like, that is just flat out insulting. Like, there's no way to dance around it. Like, notably, dung beetles are impressive considering how strong they are relative to their physical size. Like, the dung that they roll around is very, very impressive. Like, you look up the scale comparison thing, it's like, what? Upwards like 50 times their body weight. I think the only beetle that has like a better body weight to lifting ratio is like the Herculean beetle or something like that. So that's very impressive in some sense. But you know, there's a reason he calls them dung beetles. It's because Annwn is the trash of Camelot. It's the people who didn't accept the vision immediately and then thusly were trapped here, or possible criminals or stuff like that. And it's run by Belltrep, who so far, out of the 4 perils we've seen, seems to be the most vile, seems to be the most vicious, though admittedly Roldane's also pretty vile and pretty vicious. But of course we know that Belltrep isn't fully human, so that probably has some sort of play into it. But overall, Belltrep mocking them by calling them dung beetles, very, very appropriate. Well, a good way to set up and properly elaborate on a character we got very little so far, and really show what they're like, and their mentality, and how they feel about their position and their job relative to all these people that they have complete jurisdiction over. Very well good stuff, not gonna lie. However, we do get to see that Belltrep naturally asks, what is it that you seek? Freedom, fortune, or perhaps glory? And we get a couple different answers. Number one, it's freedom, man. What do you think? And that is the primary one. I don't blame him. Notably though, I feel like wishing for freedom in this tournament is ultimately just wishing to get put in another place of Camelot. Like, the whole point of this place is to make you appreciate Camelot. So I don't know. It feels like a lose scenario, because like, you're always going to end up in Camelot. There is no real escape. You are stuck there for eternity evermore. But with it being the case, escape is a valid thing to wish for. I also too would wish to escape out of prison if I knew I was in prison. The other thing is, some guy just wants girls. Like, dude, you still want to stay in off? Like, that's the thing. Both of these last two, the girls and the I just want to be famous guy, in Annwn, that's where you want to do that. This place where I haven't seen a single house, a single place of residence. The only houses I've seen is a hole in the ground. That doesn't seem very positive. But overall, it is nice to have multiple characters and multiple motivations. I do hope out of the split we're going to get that there are at least some interesting characters with some unique motivations. But once again, it seems like a lot of their main motivations would be escape. But luckily enough, there's a certain character who we will know has very specific unique motivations. Can't wait to see them. But with it being the case, we see that Percy declares his ambition, his wish, directly feeding into Camelot's existence, as he says, I want to defeat you all. Now, obviously, this isn't just in reference to Belltrep, but it's in reference to all the 4 perils, and naturally in reference to Arthur. And still, this is, while it does seem shady and a little bit maybe not Percy, this still is the same Percy who ultimately went on this journey for one reason and one reason only: to get his devious lick back for his grandpa on Ironside and for Arthur. So it is nice to see that even though Percy's changed, even though he's not the same boy we once knew 2 years ago, even though he's much more light spirit than he is human, he still has that burning passion inside of him. He still has that fire, that belief, that need to get his get back and ultimately get, really just, it feels weird just saying get his revenge, but yeah, that's really what he's going for now. That above all others, he knows and wants to avenge who he's lost. And I think that is sweet. But ultimately, we do get to see that Belltrep brings up this idea. Now, if you want to win this festival and obtain your most fervent wish, you must proceed to the tower at once. And we see the whole crew starts to walk towards the tower. But very specifically, our two Knights of Prophecy have a specific point that they decide to lay out. Gawain locks eyes with Percy, and Percy reluctantly turns and says, "Hey, guys, I want all of you to wait here. Me and Gawain will tackle the festival ourselves." Huh? It really is going to be dangerous from this point forward. So, now, I'll admit, in a live reaction, we can check it over on Patreon for $1 a month. You can remember for $3 a month to check out. I admittedly didn't like this moment because I was like, Percy, you do realize they've been risking their lives in Camelot without you for the past 2 years because you abandoned them 2 years ago, Percy. So you think now that they're finally here in Camelot with an actual motivation alongside you, where they want to be for those past 2 years, they're suddenly going to turn back? I did find it a little bit annoying that Percy would disregard their feelings like that after he disregarded their feelings 2 years prior. I thought he had grown beyond that. I thought that's the whole reason he came back, because he wanted to make amends for all that, as he apologized previously for it. And I'm actually kind of shocked that Gawain endorsed this kind of mentality, but I will admit, this being a consistent character flaw of Percy, no matter how much he develops, no matter how much stronger he gets, no matter how much more dangerous he becomes, he still deeply cares for the concern and safety of his friends, since he knows they're simply not built like him and Gawain, not built like him, Gawain, and Tristan, and definitely not built like him, Gawain, and Tristan, and Lance. I do like that. And I like how Percy ultimately does say this. He doesn't need them, he doesn't command them, he wants them to stay behind. And naturally, when he and Gawain go to tromp off and go do what they need to do, they hear stepping behind them. And Percy turns and says, guys, I told you to wait here. But our cast and crew, our big three, the original main cast before we got introduced to the rest of our four knights, obviously excluding Lance, who was there since the beginning as well, says, "Look, we're Team Percival, aren't we? The Knights of Prophecy's top allies. Don't forget, we chose to follow you, full well knowing the danger involved." And Gnostians themselves says, "Plus, the more people join the festival, after all, the better our chances of winning. Besides, I have a thing or two I'm hoping to try out as well." And Donnie, of course, being Donnie, says, "Yeah, don't count me out this soon, Percival. Better watch yourself before I go and win the whole darn thing." Laughing himself, or patting himself on the back and hyping himself up. Out of all the reactions, I will admit, my favorite is Ann's. It's because she does remind Percy of what he may have already forgotten, or at least is pushing to the side. The idea that they chose this life, just as they chose to be friends with Percy, just as they chose to follow Percy. None of them had to join him. Donnie could have gone off and done his own thing. Gnostians could have gone off and done their own thing. And Anne could have gone off and done her own thing. But ultimately, they chose to risk their lives with Percy. They've been risking their lives for the past 2 years. Obviously, Gnostians not as much as Anne and Donnie, but still, ultimately, they've all dedicated their lives to Percival. And they're not going to stand there and watch as Percival risks it all while they don't risk anything themselves, just as they always dream to. And I think that is sweet. I'm happy that they're able to push this mentality, that they're able to do it. And the main thing I'm happy about is that, one, it's in character for all of them to have their motivations, but two, that Percy does accept them. Where before he would have run away, as we see him do, run away for their sakes or force them to stay behind, lock them in a hope wall or something. Here, upon seeing their determination, upon seeing their resolve, upon seeing the hope in their hearts and themselves and in Percy, he's like, "Guys, all right, we'll go together then." He's happy to accept them, happy to bring them along, happy to enjoy this possibility with them. I do think that is sweet. That is very, very adorable. And they all decide to go together. To quote Xemnas, "We shall go together." And we see them all approach the tower. But, of course, Donnie naturally mentions, "Hey, I don't see any kind of entrance into the tower." And suddenly everyone goes poof, 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 and vanishes. And they all appear at the top of the tower. Now, of course, this does raise the question, how is everyone supposed to view the whole fighting tournament? Obviously, only those who got close enough to the tower to be teleported will actually be able to observe it. I don't know. We'll take it. It's interesting. I'll see how it's fleshed out. But a lot of people end up on top of the tower. A lot of people approached it because naturally this is the Gladiator Fighting Festival. This is what everyone typically waits about a year for, at least according to Tristan or Tantris. And we see that Johnny realizes, "Hang on, are we at the top of it now? Jeez, so we're gonna duke it out with all the people here? This is a heck of a crowd." And Gnostians estimates, well, yes, at least 300 or 400, which is very, very impressive. Obviously, a lot of these characters aren't really going to get too much time to shine, but I do hope in the next chapter we're going to see a bit more of this random crowd, and maybe see some powerful people get knocked off. Obviously, some weak people get knocked off. It's going to be interesting, or knocked off or knocked out. As it's asked, I wonder what they'll have us do. And Belltrep immediately leaps into it and says, "First, we will pare you down your numbers a little. You may use anything you like, weapons, magic, your honed muscle, and everyone else is your enemy." So, it is a free-for-all. This is interesting. Tear down your numbers a little bit. You can use anything you like. He doesn't say to knock them off. Initially, I thought this was something, and you can check that out in the live action as well. I thought this was more akin to like the Tournament of Power, where like your goal is to knock off your adversaries from the top of the tower, while it's on a super tall tower, if not to knock people off of it. But considering this seems to be all the people on top of the tower and the edges of the tower seemed a bit elevated, I don't think they can do that. So it seems like you are going on a straight knockout fist. Now, what happens to those who are knocked out is also a little bit vague. Who knows? We know technically Belltrep is not going to want any of them to perish, because ultimately it is their dreams and their desires, their wishing energy that keeps Camelot running. But still, I wonder what happens to those who are knocked out, because we don't see them really get moved or anything once they are incapacitated. So it's gonna be interesting. However, with that being the case, everyone immediately gets to battle. Well, this is what I was really expecting when we heard about Annwn the first time, being a Gladiator festival. Everyone goes buku bonkers and really starts attacking. Now, fight for the sake of your desires. Only the final 16 titans left standing in the end will advance to the Gladiator festival's final battle. And people immediately go for it. Now, once again, the lethality of all this is definitely in question. How much Arthur would even allow any of these people to perish, or how much Belltrep would allow these people to perish, is heavily in question. I feel like the answer is just none of them, because once again, they're all very, very useful to powering Camelot, but who knows? We have no idea. If 400 participants or 300 to 400 participants are here and there are a whole bunch of bystanders watching, who knows how many people just decided to not come that day. Annwn and its scale and size are still completely unknown. But with it being the case, the Percival platoon actually gets focused because they are some of the youngest looking people there, and they say, "Let's start by taking out that bunch of kids there," only for the daughters to be like, "Do you not know who I am? There's a reason they call me the Donners." And he proceeds to say, "What was that?" And immediately get to schmoving and grooving. Let me tell you. As he lifts a whole bunch of them up with his magical technique, with his telekinesis. And they all go, whoa, what are you? And Donnie says, "Who are you going to take out first?" As he lifts up very specifically 1, 2, 3, I think 4, possibly 5 of them, one for each finger, presumably. I do like how he has the ring on his finger. Each one of them per finger, and then he clamps his fists together, turning them into a ball, and then pitches them using a break throw. Now, that's interesting. Once again, Donnie's abilities have seemed to evolve very, very drastically. We've seen him lift up multiple things or large structures at once. We saw him earlier lift up a whole slab of earth and break off a slab of earth to throw at Belltrep when they initially encountered them. But in particular, the ability to seemingly fine-tune his control to the point where he has 5 access points that he can manipulate, and then by crushing his fist, he can then further manipulate them. Very impressive. Donnie's training over these past 2 years is very, very good. And honestly, out of the side characters right now, unless Nassim has access to the Spirit Spear, yeah, I'd say Donnie's is the strongest. He has the most easy access to his magic, and it has the most capability for large scale destruction. So I like it. Donnie, he's looking like him. But as he throws out a whole bunch and knocks a whole bunch of people over, Tantris reveals themselves and knocks the 5 people who were thrown at him by Donnie away, causing him a whole bunch of agony as he says, "I will dedicate my victory here to you." And obviously, you is in reference to Isolde. His Isolde. Whether or not that's the real Isolde, once again, it's debatable. Probably it's the real Isolde, just, altered by the realm of Annwn and the realm of Camelot. We don't know. Though the reason I'm hesitant to say that's Isolde is, why would he become Tantris but Isolde stays Isolde? Like someone mentioned previously, there are multiple Isoldes in Arthurian mythology, so maybe it is just that. But still, it seems strange that there would be multiple Isoldes, but only one Tantris? And specifically, Tantris' name would change, but Isolde's name wouldn't change. I don't know. It's weird. There was a beautiful theory. I do want to give credit to this because they did a fantastic job. And I don't think I responded to their comment, but I did read the entire thing. There's a beautiful idea that someone laid out. The idea that both Isolde and Tristan feel guilt about their demon heritage, and ultimately what Camelot did by granting their wish upon entering it was strip away that demon heritage. But the reason Isolde feels sick is because, unlike Tristan, who is a mix of human and goddess, meaning he has a whole bunch to sustain himself, Isolde's demon blood is inherited from Gila. That would assume that Gila did have kids over the time skip, very specifically did have Isolde. The only reason I do find that skeptical is we don't meet Gila's husband, and while it was implied that Hauser and Gila dated, ? Exclamation point, I don't think it would make sense for Gila to be Isolde's mom, but the person wrote fantastic points how Gila does have the magic that is pertaining to explosions, just like Gila's original magic. Actually, was it Gila's original magic? Was that magic awakened by the blood? No. That was Gila's original magic. Her original magic was explosion, because then she got the demon blood after she was already introduced. And Gila is relatively tall, relatively slim built, and people brought up the idea that, oh, well, the reason that the person in the comment wrote the idea that, oh, the reason that Isolde's so tall is because of the demon blood. And obviously, a lot of the demons, with rare exception, are extremely big. And remember, the demon blood that Gila specifically ingested was red demon blood. And red demons are huge. So it explained why Isolde is so huge. But ultimately, in the act of rejection, because naturally Camelot does not like demons, Tristan is forcefully mind wiped because he's literally half biologically demon, and he's forced to use just his god's powers, which explains why he has no seeming demon progression. And also, Isolde is struggling so much and is sick because it's a literal fundamental part of her. Her demon blood that's being rejected is causing her to be smaller, be weaker, be frailer, and the reason her body's rejecting that is because that is literally her. Unlike Tristan, who does already innately rely more on his goddess half than his demon half, he does seem to have an innate fear of his demonic side thanks to the events of Gridge of Edinburgh, or at least events that were revealed in Gridge of Edinburgh. Isolde may be rejecting way too big a portion of herself that she didn't previously do before, even if she did feel ashamed about her height. Meanwhile, Tristan, who became Tantris, rejected his demon half, but was already starting to accept it by the end of part 1, and definitely has a more, let's just say, other power set to rely on in the case of his goddess and human half. That's a very interesting comment. I really like that idea, and it would be interesting for Gila to have a kid. By who? If Isolde does end up being Hauser's kid, that's hilarious, because that would then make Isolde and Donnie cousins. First cousins, in fact. So that'd be funny. But with it being the case, Tristan or Tantris is dedicating his victory to Isolde. Sorry, I went on a whole tangent because I wanted to mention that comment because that was really, really good and really elaborate. But with it being the case, we see something interesting, something very interesting that clears things up, but does once again make me question the overall competence of Camelot, but respect the scale of Camelot even more. Belltrep says, this magic, a mix of light and darkness, twilight. But we see Gawain mention, oops, I forgot him, and teleports one of the rings onto Tristan. And once that ring is teleported onto Tristan, Belltrep immediately goes, how odd. My eyes playing tricks on me. And proceeds to look away from Tristan. So, this implies one of two things. Either one, well, I think it either hard confirms something and then implies something else. One, it implies that Isolde and Tristan may have not been here for that long. Now, this does come into question, considering that Anne and Donnie mentioned that they lost contact with the Tristan platoon a while ago, and we still know the whereabouts of Kion. But that does explain the idea that ultimately they may have gotten trapped here recently, and recently enough that they weren't spotted at the last Gladiator festival. Two, along with the Mirage Tower, like I mentioned earlier, appearing and disappearing only when Belltrep is actively there involved, Belltrep may be the warden, but he's not an active one, meaning he may have never surveilled this area. For Tristan in Pacific, not the ocean, specific, meaning that ultimately Tristan may have gotten trapped here by accident and not put here by force. Because the main thing I was wondering, he has Dragon Handle. He's Tristan, the son of the Seven Deadly Sins. How did they not notice him if he's been here for any period of time at all? He should be a top priority. They should be hunting him down. But no, if he somehow stumbled into this realm, he may have been here for 2 days at most, and his memories were wiped and he was changed. That's why they weren't able to discover him up to this point. That could be interesting. And also, once again, it just reinforces the idea that Belltrep isn't here all the time. He does his own thing elsewhere and doesn't actually watch over Annwn, because Annwn doesn't seem like a place that necessarily needs to be watched over. Very, very interesting stuff here. It does excuse it. Do I think it makes sense? Actually, yeah. Once again, a thing that keeps slipping in my mind is the idea that Camelot is huge. Huge. And the Cauldron of Annwn, their battle festival, is meant to even raise up more hypothetical knights to serve Camelot and maintain wishing energy. So ultimately, I wouldn't be shocked if Arthur's just generally understaffed and overworked. He only has 4 perils, 4 elite knights, to the Sin 7, which is comparable ability to the goddesses' 4 archangels, and the Demon Clan's 10 commandments and their 6 knights of black, and whatever the knockoff 6 knights of blacks were. I forget what their new knockoff name was, but still, the Demon Clan had numerous powerful warriors who could maintain, investigate, and oversee realms. That's why my what if Elizabeth was confident, what if I sort of gave the idea that the commandments watch over different parts of the demon world, and so on and so forth for something like the Archangels, and so on and so forth for any other major faction. Kind of like how the Seven Deadly Sins were tasked with watching over and protecting the Kingdom of Britannia. or the Kingdom of Leona specifically, and obviously running and operating throughout Britannia. But if Arthur really has so few resources and Camelot is super duper big, it's a super realm containing multiple sub-realms, some of which sub-realms have been shown to have entire starry night skies in them. I'm not too shocked that Tristan could go under the radar then. Because if no one's actively looking for him, or the people who are actively looking for him don't know where to look, and there are infinite realms to get lost in, yeah, it makes perfect sense that Tristan will be left behind, because Arthur wouldn't be consistently looking for him, and neither would Belltrep or any of Arthur's men, because they don't know where he could be, because Camelot's just that big. Heck, Pelgard seemingly had an entire pocket dimension to himself, which the scale of we don't know. And then, of course, you had Gawain's little pocket dimension and so on and so forth. So I'm not actually shocked that they couldn't find Tristan. And once again, the vagueness of how long he's been here does help with that. So I'll excuse it a little bit more. One of my biggest critiques of the last chapter was, how did they not know Tristan was here? How in the world did that not work? But now it makes more sense. With that being the case, though, obviously, Belltrep being immediately affected by the deception magic is very, very impressive. These rings are real, real good. Once again, it does make me wonder, Gawain, did you make these yourself? Did your grandma help you make them? Or something along those lines? Because if you can just do this, Gawain, that's pretty darn broken. Like, that's not go through tier level stuff, but like, it's getting close. However, we do get to see that Gawain immediately starts to rain fire on all the poor individuals who just want to fight for their freedom, and destroys them all with, presumably, I want to say these are mini dawn bolts considering they're massive explosions, but who knows with Gawain. Her bag is basically infinite. And we see that a whole bunch of people end up lending for Percy since he looks the sweetest and easiest to fight, obviously outside of Nasians and Anne. And he smiles at them, proceeds to blitz them all, and one-taps them instantaneously. And by one-tap, I literally mean one-tap, as in he... Now, on my initial read-through, I thought this was pressure points, but it's actually something even more interesting and even more dangerous and even more crazy for Percy. As they say, I can't move. I'm totally drained. Are we gonna die like this? And Percy says, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. After a day of sleep, that is. So, Percy can drain stamina. Lots of it, presumably. Essentially, think of this as a more finite and evolved version of his life stealing. Essentially, he stole their vitality. And unless this is also meant to be a bare chest right here, what it looks like, he touches this guy on his armor, or at least on his clothes. So, and then this especially also looks like armor rather than just bare skin, though seemingly enough, his fingers do indent, which may happen on armor, or may more so happen on skin than on armor. But it does make me wonder, does that mean if you just come in contact with Percy's body, one way or another, he can drain the stamina out of you to the point where you cannot move until a whole day passes? And he can do that just by touching you? Percy, why are you so cracked, bro? He's basically immortal. He can heal everyone around him. He can protect everyone around him. He can create whatever constructs he wants. He can drain the life out of people and give life to people and also drain their stamina. This man is cracked. Oh, and also, by the way, he can see basically everything the light spirits see. And maybe kind of pseudo-omniscient, thanks to that. He's built like that, for real. But ultimately, he knocks everybody out. He gives them that little speech. And someone comes to attack Percy. And Percy naturally is like, do y'all not know who I am? I'm built like that, for real. And just casually, boom, 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 and knocks away all of the strikes from this individual. And I do love how Percy does the no-look blocking and very specifically makes the blade extra big. Like, the blade is basically as big as his old enchanted blade was whenever he would empower Dragon Handle or the Percival sword. It is essentially the same size as blade, it's just more refined. His hope energy is much more refined than it was before, with no mini Percy's leaking off of it. And we see this fellow here says, I just want to win! I have no personal grudge against you! And specifically attacks Percy. Now, we can clearly tell this person does not have much battle experience, as they're attacking the one guy who they just saw knock out multiple guys with a single touch. But as Percy's fighting them, or I say fighting them, but really just casually dealing with them and parrying all their attacks, he thinks, hey, wait a minute, I've seen this style before. And as the guy drops his blade to the ground and starts, and Percy asks, whoa, are you okay? You look familiar. And two people run up and say, oh no, we're on our way to help. Sir Diodora? Or Diodora. Once again, which one is it? I always forget. I feel like I've asked this before. Is it Diodora or Diodora? And when I say Diodora, I know I put a weird extra emphasis on it. Diodora is the translation that I see sometimes, but Diodora is just this, but remove the O and put the R there. So Diodora, versus Diodora. Which one is it? Which one is more historically accurate? I don't know. But Diodora's here. That's interesting. Why is he an Annwn? Is this like the Gawain thing, where ultimately people with certain levels of jurisdiction and precedence can just go wherever they want in Camelot as long as they know where to go, and that's why he's here in order to just get the wish? Or has he actually been locked up in Annwn? I'm feeling like it's more the former, because Ironside was only recently turned. If you'll remember, Ironside and Pelgard have no longer any care for their respective children, but that is a recent development only after Worldane's failure and Ironside's failure against the Sins. So I highly doubt that he's been here for too long if he was in prison here. But even then, why would he be in prison here? That doesn't really make any sense. Why would they bring him here? I don't know. But having Diodora be integrated into the narrative and having him finally meet Percy, it's in a way I never expected, I'll really admit. But I'm intrigued. I'm also intrigued to see his post-timeskip design, considering he is hidden under a bunch of armor. And I do like this sweet little detail that he fights just like Mortlock, because Mortlock was the guy who trained him, because he was Diodora's nephew. Or Diodora was his nephew, and Mortlock was his uncle. So Percy, is that a little bit of, I think that's spice and flavoring. I love it. But Diodora's here, and in the tournament, naturally, I think this does guarantee him a spot. For our 8 combatants, considering it is the last 16 who are going to be broken down in a traditional bracket style tournament, it's going to be Gawain, it's going to be Percy. I think our main 3 are locked. I think they're going to make it, because that leaves 11 of the spots. And you can break them out where none of them should have to fight each other, I think. Because then you can have 10 separate matches. I expect them to lose by the time of the tournament. They're going to do some jobbing. But until then, I see all of our main 5 making it. Then we have these 3. I think these 3 are going to make it, and then we're going to get 8 unique opponents. So we're going to have Diodora, we're going to have his 2 servants, and we're going to have the rest of the crew. Who's going to fight who? I don't know. I'm excited, but I'm interested to see how these 2 interact, because Percy knows the truth of Diodora, but Diodora likely doesn't know the truth of Percy, unless we find something else. We don't know what Diodora's going to wish for. It could be for his own health, it could be for his father, but regardless, this chapter was some gas. Elaboration on the nature of Camelot, and specifically the nature of Annwn, the nature of Belltrep within Annwn, and an elaboration and expansion of Percy's powers, along with the elaboration and expansion of Gawain's powers, the hype and slow build to the Sacred Treasure. That once again, I really don't get why Nakaba would spoil it here. Like, dog, why would you spoil what the Sacred Treasure is going to look like if this does end up being the Sacred Treasure? Maybe it's just a random sword. But still, overall, that, with Donnie's development of abilities, the development of the Percival Tunes dynamic, everything in this chapter is just really, really good. This is the 10 out of 10 chapter for me, because that's literally everything I love in Four Knights. The designs, the action, the character interactions, the plot development, the mystery development, all that. So much of this chapter is so good. But, of course, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave throw break. Oh yeah. Throw break instead of break throw in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do happen to have a page down below where you can support me for as low as $1, get a month, no month, things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, and variations of all my videos, and to become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 beans for a short video, 29 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Sarah, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo, Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level superhuman in beyond this world kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.